told you that your resting heart rate could be one of the most important numbers in your life. It's not just your pulse. This number could predict your chances of an early death. In today's video, I am going to share with you what resting heart rate you should be at according to your age. Later in this video, I will share with you the shocking news that I found out yesterday about my resting heart rate. We'll also go through a few of the things that you can do to improve your overall heart rate. Your resting heart rate is basically how many beats per minute your heart takes at rest. This is usually when we are simply sitting down and calm, or standing and resting. The average person's rate sits between about 50 and 100. Though it can vary, the rate that you sit at really can give you an insight into your overall health. Whilst most people sit between 50 and 100, there is definitely an optimal rate to be sitting at. If you are an athlete, your RHR might be down at 40. I've heard that the elite athletes from Tour de France can have a resting heart rate of 32, but most of us are not elite athletes. The American Heart Association suggests that we should all try to keep our RHR below 80. If there's ever a time that your rate falls below 50 or goes over 100, you definitely need to see a doctor very quickly, because this is not a good sign. We should be checking our RHR regularly. There are basically two ways to do this. There's the old-fashioned pulse test, where we stick our 2 fingers over our pulse and count our beats for 15 seconds and times this by 4. You can also do this by your neck. However, modern technology has made this a lot easier with a Fitbit. I can monitor my heart rate. Whilst these aren't perfect, over a week they will definitely give you a very accurate score. 2 things to note that if you are using a Fitbit is that if you have a tattoo under your watch or you have a dark skin tone, it can actually affect the reading slightly. What is interesting about monitoring your rate all the time is that you can actually see if you are making progress if you are on an exercise routine or program. We sometimes forget that our heart is actually a muscle, and muscles need to work out. They need to work to get stronger. And the more that you work out, the more exercise that you do, the stronger your heart becomes, which takes a lot of pressure off this beating organ. When you are taking your RHR, you need to make sure that you haven't had coffee or alcohol or strenuous exercise within about 2 hours of taking your reading for it to be accurate. Other things that can affect your rate include if you have a diagnosed heart condition, if you are on certain medications, particularly ones that thin the blood, and also things such as how hydrated you are, how much sleep you've had, and how much stress you are under. Our rate can also be affected by the heat, so if it is very hot outside or very humid and you are slightly dehydrated, then this can affect your overall score as well. Another way that you can use your rate when exercising to see if you are getting improvement is to track how long it takes for you to return to your resting heart rate after strenuous exercise. You want this period to become less and less, as well as having your rate drop. These are all good indications that your heart is getting stronger and you are getting fitter. I wanted to share a story about what happened to me yesterday. I was actually thinking that this was a good idea for a video after reading a study from the Harvard Medicine Unit and the results about how significant your heart rate actually is. I was actually shocked to find that their research showed that if your heart rate sits above 80 beats per minute, you almost double your risk of premature death. What was very frightening was that if your heart rate sits above 90 most of the time, then this can almost triple your chances of premature death because of the strain that it is putting on your heart. This got me thinking. A couple of months ago, from June to July, I had my first bout of COVID, and it was severe. It made me very, very sick. I'm only just starting to get my breathing back to where it was, but it's still a little bit when I walk or exert myself. So as part of this video, I went back over my records on my Fitbit app, and I was really shocked, horrified actually, to find that when I was walking every day pre-COVID, my resting heart rate was sitting around 70 to 71, which is pretty spot on for my age. However, when I got sick, I barely exercised for 2 months. In fact, for the first month, I don't even think I had left the couch. Then, in the second month, I was walking just a couple of thousand steps a day because I was so breathless and so tired. What was frightening to me was that after 2 weeks, my heart rate started to increase and increase and increase. By the second month of inactivity, my resting heart rate had jumped from an average of 70 to 71 to sitting between 80 to 82, which is significant and very dangerous, particularly for a woman who is perimenopausal as well as already having high blood pressure. I mean, I'm putting myself at doubling my risk of a heart attack mixed with high blood pressure. So this is really frightening, and I think my Fitbit may have just saved my life. I've just started on a 30-day walking challenge in September to try to get back to where I was. So it'll be interesting to see how my stats move over the next 30 days. If you're finding benefit from this video, then do me a favor and hit the like button so that this video gets pushed out to more people that need some help. There are certain things that you can do to bring your HRH down. The big one obviously is exercise. Any exercise is going to help. Obviously it is good if you can get your heart rate up to 80% of your maximum heart rate. The old-fashioned way of working this out is taking the number 220 and minusing your age. So for example, if you are 40, your maximum heart rate is 180, so when working out and exerting yourself, you shouldn't pass 80% of that. If you are not a runner, I certainly am not a runner, I'm not being chased by zombies, so I have no reason to run. However, you can incorporate interval walking. So walk at an average pace of 100 steps per minute for a couple of minutes, and then switch up to brisk walking, which is about 115 to 120 steps a minute. Do this for a minute, then move back to your average walking speed. You can also look at adding hills into your walk. Just trying to get that heart rate up. Use that muscle. Other options are definitely to get more sleep and drink more water. 2 vitamin supplements that you can take that can assist is definitely vitamin D, especially if you are not getting a lot of sunshine. If you live in the northern hemisphere where winter you may not get as much sun as you need. Another option is B1, which is particularly important if you have a high carb diet. Further research studies have mentioned that post-menopause women should definitely look at keeping their HRH under 76. So that is something to be mindful of. Women's heart rate is about anywhere between 5 to 10 beats higher than a man's. So at this time of your life, it is important to really think about your heart health and reducing your risk of premature death. Let me know in the comments what your current heart rate is if you know it. Now, let's have a look at the chart. As you can see, there's not a huge difference as you go up each decade. For men, we are looking at an ideal heart rate of between about 60 to 73. And for women, between 56 and 71. Obviously, this can be lower if you are very fit. Apart from my resting heart rate jumping a frightening 15% during my period of inactivity, a few other things happened, and I have a video that you can watch right here that'll go into more detail.